interested and so touched, so moved by her story, it was very important that we have her on the program. Now, my next guest broke the internet, and some of you guys probably heard a portion of her story. Now, she's here with us today to share the complete, full, uncut story. And as you know, she's not going to be polite about it. I would like you guys to help me to welcome my next guest, Miss Monique Doran. She's right now in, I think, somewhere in the United States. I'm going to let her introduce herself and her location. Monique Doran, welcome to Ridealong. How are you doing, my dear? I'm not here yet. Okay, hold on. Sorry, go ahead.
I said good evening. I'm awesome.
Absolutely, we're great. Happy to have you on the program, Monique. So much people came out here early to hear your story, and we appreciate you so much taking the time out to share your story here with us on Ride Along. It is my pleasure to welcome you here, and if you could take the opportunity to also welcome and say hi to some of our viewers that's all over the world that interested in hearing your story to feel inspired about. If you could take the time to also big them up out there.
Oh God, I mean, a huge and massive, like magnanimous big up to everyone that like supported me so far. I didn't expect for it to be this big or to help so many people, and the outcry has been, the support has been phenomenal. So I just want to thank every person that's hit the like button, the love button, the cry button, the heart button, the anger button. Just said, hi, Monique, how you doing? I really appreciate you guys.
Yes, absolutely. As I said, Monique, your story broke the internet. And I don't know if your intention was to make such a magnificent, great impact on the world, but nevertheless, you did. You came on there, you pour your heart out to the world. And today we are going to recap on some of the story that you told, and basically have a broader understanding as to what happened in your very amazing life and growing up and able to achieve so much at this age. So if you could, for some of the folks that are just watching us, Monique, if you could just tell us about your life growing up, how it all started for you as a little girl growing up in Jamaica.
Okay, so when I was, I grew up in what I guess you'd call a typical family. I had a mother and father. We grew up, I guess, what you would call uptown. And as far as I knew, we were comfortable. And my mother came here when I was about 8 years old to reside permanently, as a lot of parents do, to make ends meet and help the family out. And my mother left me with my father, which I guess you would say is not unusual. Who would you leave your child with if not the other parent? And when I got to about 12 years old, everything just started to change. He started isolating me from my sister. His words started to change. I didn't feel like his child anymore. I started to feel like, almost like he was prepping me to become my next mother, or to take the place of my mother. That's how it started feeling. And the slipping of the tongue down the throat, the grabbing of the thighs, and it was dismissed as nothing big. And we had a live-in help, and when she found out, because it got to the point where I just couldn't take it anymore, and I wrote a letter to reveal to her what was going on. And she just told me to have some mercy on him. Every time I would tell her, she would just tell me to have mercy. But I didn't know that they were in a sexual relationship. And so this thing continued for years.
Your father and the help in the house was involved in a sexual relationship?
Yes, they were. But at the time, I was ignorant. I wasn't aware that was going on.
Right.
So, she finds out and she's telling me, give him a chance. I'm like, this man prepped me so well, because the grooming started well before I realized. He would allow me to talk to my teachers anyhow. He would allow me to talk to the adults anywhere anyhow. He would not really correct us. And beyond my view, my little child view, I didn't realize that this was a part of his plan to make me look so bad that when I came out, either people wouldn't believe me, or I would be so in love with him that I would just go along with it. And when I started to let him know that I was going to tell my mom, he would threatened me because my mom was here and she couldn't travel.
Right.
You know, like so many other people that come here for a better life. And he let me know that he would come here and shoot my mom because he was a sergeant, a corporal at the time. And he let me know that, you know, he would come back, shoot us, then shoot himself. Nothing would come of it. You know, that there's nobody to call because he is the law. And, you know, as we know, the system back home, it's so corrupt that at 12 years old, I believed him. At 12 years old, I was aware enough to know that it's so corrupted that me calling might actually end up in my murder. So I had to be strategic because I wanted to live. I knew I had to get away from there. And I had a little sister that was 3 years younger than me. I had to protect her. She was all I had. You know, all my life, I'd been the big sister. So now I really had to be her hero and, you know, stand in the place so that he wouldn't touch her. And long story short, it just went on for 3 years. And when I was about 13, I decided that I was going to take away from him what he wanted because I realized that he was after my virginity. And, you know, that's probably one of the best things I can say that I got out of it. It was the only time I was really allowed to have any power in the situation, but it was all I needed, you know. And it empowered me so much that the following summer, you know, 99, I came here, and after every year of coming up and not being able to tell my story to my mom out of fear, I just decided, you know, what else do I have to lose but life itself? You know, why live? Why be afraid to die and be in the house dead anyway? And so I came here and I had the courage finally to tell my mom. And she told us that we had to go back home for a little while because, you know, the way the system was set up, we could be deported back, she could be arrested. And, you know, I did my best to understand.
Right.
It was all confusing because I couldn't get how my mother, that I thought for sure once she heard,
yes,
would certainly pry me from his hands.
Yeah.
Would certainly pry me from his hands. But I had to come back. And for 2 months I had to figure out how I was going to survive.
Right. I want to go back. I want to not to cut you, but I want to go back a little bit because I know the story is so graphic and how it all happened, and as a way to let young girls and young parents or parents understand the signs to look for. So in your video, you describe how your father would come into your room and first started to put his mouth on you or put his hand on you sexually and all that stuff. At what age was that, and how did it happen, or how did it start?
So when I was 12, you know, it started, actually I remember the first day he did it. I was in the kitchen and he actually slipped up behind me and he was, you know, just acting like it was nothing big. He was like slipping his tongue in my throat. And I remember I turned to him and I said, "But Daddy, what you're doing is wrong," you know? And he turned and he gave me this look that I'll never forget. And then it just started getting worse. You know, he would sit beside me on the couch and just grab on my legs. And then it escalated to him telling me at nights how he would come in the room and slip his fingers inside of me, you know, and how wet I was. And
he would just be telling you that, but at that time there was no action to it. He would just be describing the things that he wanted to do to you.
Oh, he would be describing what he did to me at night, because I would wake up every morning, and bear in mind I'm still a virgin, and I wake up every morning and there's sticky stuff between my legs, and I'm like, you know, why is my vagina feeling like this? Why am I feeling this wet stuff? But you know, you're just going into a different stage of life. You're just now knowing what your cycle is, so you're thinking, well, maybe, you know, it's something from puberty or whatever. But when he comes to me now and he's telling me that it's him and he's the reason why, and he's putting his finger in me, and how he enjoyed it, and how I laughed in my sleep, because, you know, I sleep very sound, as we call back home, or very dead, as some people say back home. And he would tell me how I would smile in my sleep, and how I loved it, and how he loved it, and how much I satisfied him. So, you know, it just continually started to get worse. And then it started going from the verbal, what I'm doing, to coming and squeezing on my breast and grabbing on my bottom. And, you know, even the help's daughter caught him one time, you know, in the kitchen. And I remember stabbing him with a fork, because it had just gotten so much. And I was just like, oh my God, is anybody going to help me? I mean, I even went as far as starting to sleep beside the help at night. And this man came in my room, in the room, while I was beside her. And, I'm waking up and I'm like, oh my God, Jennifer, he's playing with my breast. And he just looks at her just nonchalantly and just, what? I'm waking up to go to school. And I'm screaming out, so you have to play with my breast to wake me up to go to school? You know what I mean? And it's just starting to get worse and worse. He's becoming more agitated where he's taking it outside. He's no longer caring what the neighbors think. There's a young man that knew me since I was practically a baby, and he was like I guess you could say a bigger brother of sorts. And I remember he used to always look out for us. He's the young man that would say, go on up, go home when you're down the street too long, or not walking fast enough to get home. And so there was no threat from this young man, and because my father wanted to separate me, he would start to tell everyone. I'm talking about people who were like grandparents, the same young man I'm telling you about. I remember I ran to that guy and I told him, can you just please come over to the house more often? And he asked me why. And I said, just come, because whenever you're there, everything is okay. But I couldn't tell him because, my father is threatening me, putting gun to my head, everything, telling me I was going to kill me. And I can't tell the young man because if I tell him, I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm just like, please just come to the house, because whenever someone is at the house, it means less time for me to possibly get touched. You know what I mean?
Right.
And one day he just looked the young man in the eyes and said, don't come back over here because she's mine. So he literally stopped hiding it now. Like his ego got so much, he started going outside with it. And neighbors would call me and ask me, what's going on over there? And I'd tell them, just straight up, my father is over there messing with me. And all they would say to me is, boy, that's sad, that rough. I'm really sorry for what you're going through, but we're so afraid that we can't intervene. And I remember going home just night after night and crying and saying, oh my God, you mean nobody's willing to stand up and help me, but they're all supposed to be grown-ups. And I remember I used to use my lunch money to buy locks to put on the door. And I would come off the bus like a mile away just to have 30 extra minutes to walk home as opposed to 3, because those 30 minutes meant my other reality didn't have to start. Because when I was at school, I created a whole different reality just so I could survive, and not really go crazy. I had to convince myself that, okay, that doesn't really happen. I'm at school now and only school exists now. But sadly, you have to get home. Yeah. And getting home a half hour early would mean I'd be getting my backside bust, and it was worth it. I didn't care, because me getting him upset mean that possibly that night I wasn't going to get as violated as many other nights. So it was a really rough time.
Your father really, at that point, he didn't care, because he was the law. He was a police officer. He was a corporal. So he basically was flaunting it, and everyone in the neighborhood knew about it, right?
Correct.
And yet no one defended you. What about
none?
What about your other family members?
Well, the funny thing is when my mom met my dad, she knew that he had raped one of his sisters when he was 16. I didn't learn this until when I was much older, and family started to talk and stuff, and she started to tell us. And I found out also that when my mother met my dad, she was married to another gentleman, and apparently he couldn't have an erection, so she went and cheated with my dad. And my dad was also dating a lady.
Right.
And the lady had a 16-year-old daughter, and he raped the daughter. Well, I guess you could say he raped the little girl, because she was 16, he's a grown man, and he impregnated her. Oh. And, my mom knew about it, and she was okay with the little girl getting an abortion, and they were all okay with it. And, the story is that after that, she ended up with him, we say it back home. She took the man, and still she left me with him. So I feel like that's where the first sense of disappointment comes, to know that you are aware that this man could do that. And then other family members, because he literally I guess you could say assaulted, but he hit on, as they would say here in the States. He did his best to sleep with every single one of my mom's sisters, all of her nieces. So it's not like something where you could say it's a shocker.
let me
You know,
ask you a
they
question.
all kind of
Let me ask
suspected,
you a
but
question,
nobody wanted to
and
know.
I'll be blunt as possible. Pardon my French, but what the f was wrong with him? Like, he was just out on a rage, just sleeping with all the little kids, or just molesting and having sex with. What was really wrong with him? Was it?
You know, I ask myself every day, but it's just now since, well, it's just now. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
It's just now since the videos came out that the a lot of people are coming now and saying, I know your dad, and he was a really horrible person. You know, I'm gonna sit back a little because the
Yeah.
tripod. He was a really horrible person, and one person said, you know, your father was malignantly insane, and that was a male officer. That was a male officer that works with him that said, I knew something was wrong. I think at least 4 women have gone under the post and said, your dad, you know, molested me too. And there was no justice served. So I think it's something that's been since he was young, but everyone was willing to look beyond what was and just allow it to happen. But to say what was wrong with him, I don't know, but I know he's a sick person.
All right. So in the video, you said that he raped you for 3 years consistently. What was that period, and who was supposed to be your other guardian that's supposed to protect you? And what happened for that 3 years that he raped you in your bedroom?
Well, like the living help, as I said, was my first line of guardianship, and you know, there was nothing she was doing that was going to help the situation except keep telling me every day he needs psychiatric help. Then there was another lady named Sister Campbell. You know, I know her as Odessa Campbell, and I actually loved her more than I loved my mom because I'd never seen kindness from my mom, but I looked up to this lady because I knew her since I was small, and she was always there for me. And I went to her one day after church. I said, Sister Campbell, I need to tell you something. You know, my father is messing with me at night. And she just carelessly looked at me and said, you're rude, you're a bad child. Why would you say that about your father? You're such a bad girl. And that was it. It was never discussed again. You know, nobody talked about it. The whispers went around the church, but nothing came of it. Like the dean at school, I remember when I was leaving, she called me one day and said, well, I went into her office for my a CD player or a Walkman or something that she had taken from me. And, you know, when I walked into her office, she too said, I'm so happy that you're leaving because I knew something was wrong. Because every time your dad came to the school, because I was crying out so much for help that I would go to school and get suspended every Monday and Thursday from being in a fight. Because I just wanted somebody to ask me what was going on. And, you know, she'd say to me, she said to me the day, I knew something was wrong because every time your dad came to school and we asked him, you know, if everything was okay at home, he would look on the floor, and I knew something was seriously wrong. And I thought in my head, my God, you thought something was wrong, and you didn't think to just call me one day and say, Monique, is everything okay? You could call a psychologist at the school. You could tell me I'm bad. You could have me kneel down in devotion to embarrass me, but you couldn't ask me if everything was okay, you know? So everybody that was around me that I entrusted, even the neighbors, like I said, they knew me. Like they were rubbing me in the tummy, you know? They knew me since I was not even born yet, really. And even them, when I went to them, it was just, oh my God, I'm so sorry for you, but what can I do? I don't want to die. So everybody was afraid of dying, that they allowed me to die inside and didn't care if I died in reality.
Folks, we're chatting here with Monique Doran, and she's telling her story of rape by her own father. The story gets crazy, more in depth. It's a story that no one should really have to go through. All right, and the hurtful thing about it is what happened coming up, where we're gonna speak about shortly. And I'm watching the folks in the chat room, and everyone is disgusted, as I am and everybody else, by how your father reacted or what your father did. We have someone saying that he's a Lucifer human being. He's a goat. The system is corrupt. We have Maureen say, what's wrong with the law enforcement department in Jamaica? Why couldn't anyone report him? Why, when you look back in hindsight, on that particular time, because you're a grown adult now, when you look back at what happened there, what you think actually failed, or how do you think that the system failed you?
I mean, how didn't the system fail me is really the question, because first of all, they teach us everything they taught, forgive me, they taught us everything at school except what to do in a scenario like that, and it just wasn't spoken about. And the fact that at such a young age, I could believe him that I would be the one on the end of the gun instead of him, or him in jail. There's just no system set up. There wasn't any then, and there's not much more now. There was no place for me to run to. There was no place for me to turn to. Not even school, that's supposed to be the one place that if you can't go anywhere else, you can go to school. Not even school I could turn to. So, I mean, how didn't the system fail me? It failed me in every single way, from the teacher to the doctor to the principal to the lunch person. There was no one that I felt that I could go to. So is there really a system in place? Can we even call it a system when a child has nowhere at all that they feel like can turn to?
Let's talk about the relationship with your mother and your other family members around you. First, let's talk about your mother. How is the relationship with your mother now?
I mean, the relationship with my mother now it's numb. And that's even what caused the thing on Facebook. I didn't know it was going to have this impact. I didn't know there were that many people. I was home, and December 17th made 19 years since he had raped me, like held me down and performed oral sex on me and all of that. And I was sitting in the house, and all these thoughts just started. You think you're gonna get better, because in my head I was like, well, I wrote the book now. I'm free now. I'm good, but then December 17th came, and with each fasting hour, I was reliving it over and over and over again. And I'm remembering, okay, this was happening at this hour. And I sat down, and all these thoughts, even suicidal thoughts, started coming in my head. And I said, no, I have to let this go. If I don't let this go, I'm not going to be okay for my own child. And so I decided that I'm going to write a letter to my mom. I'm going to let her truly know some things that I wish that I could just sit and tell her, because she's not going to listen to me. And then because of how my mother is, because she's also a very manipulative person, and I said, I have to post it on Facebook, because I know if I don't post it on Facebook for all her so-called church friends to see, because whenever they hear it, they always come to me and say, oh, how could you take your mother's husband and things like this. So I said, let me post it so they can see that I'm not this bad child that they think I am. Let me post letters so they can see that I sent it out of love, not hate, but that I just need to move on. And that's how it came to be. That's how it went on Facebook. And it was just those thoughts of I have to stop this now. And while I was there, I was like, well, what do I have to lose? Let me just go ahead and send him one too. And when I sent it, there was just this release. And the next thing I know, it was a person. Then it was 2 people. Then it was 3 people. And next thing I know, my inbox had like 1,000 messages in there. I'm like, are you serious? I mean, this many people have been through what I've been through? And then the next thing I know, there are people under there saying, he raped me too. And then the next thing I know, the guy that had to take care of the children that my father killed their mother when she went to report that he was molesting, her daughter. It just started to become so real. But that's the root of how it really started. I had to release because it was eating me alive.
What was the content of the first letter? Because in your video, you were speaking. I mean, I felt your anger, right? I think everybody that watched the video felt your anger. What happened before the video? Because you seemed like you was cursing at someone who responded to the message that you initially sent. What was the content of the first letter?
Well, okay. So the content of the first letter I sent, I actually said, I told my mom, I said, listen, it's been 19 years and it's still, basically I'm just summarizing,
Yeah.
It still hurts like it hurt then. And I'm not saying that you raped me, because she loves to make the excuse that, but I didn't rape you, your father did. And so I said to her, you're right, you didn't rape me, but you didn't protect me from him. And it's just time that I let you go. I don't know who hurt you before, but I can't waste the rest of my life wanting to help somebody that's not even ready to admit that something happened to them. So I wish you love. You're a beautiful person,
Right.
but I can't keep carrying this anymore. So I have to let you go. I'm 32 and I refuse to become a 64-year-old woman like you that's sitting down, sad, with no love in her life because you refuse to just let it go. And that's how the first letter went. No, the video, and then as I said, I sent one to my dad, my father, him, and it was just basically saying the same thing, letting him know everything that I wish I could have told him. Because I went through Stockholm for a while, and like he and I became friends because I thought that's what I had to do to make the family love me, and that's another part of being abused. And so when I wrote the letter, the reason that you guys saw the video, his sister came under the post, and while everybody was doing their best to send a cheerful word, his sister came under the post and said, basically, I need to leave her brother alone. And it was unfortunate what happened to me, but that I needed to seek professional help and I need prayer. And putting the family business on social media wasn't any good. So when she said that, I was just I don't know, I lost it. And just like, this is what survivors are talking about. And no, I can't go halfway. No, I have to go all the way and address this lady because I've not seen you since I was 7 years old or 6. And the last time I saw you, you were telling me I was too dark to be your niece. And you never picked up the phone to call me and ask me how I was. But you had that audacity now to come and tell me that what I was doing was embarrassing to the family. So I just lost it, and my raw emotions just went out there, and as the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah, you made accusation. You mentioned that you became promiscuous some point in time in your life. What happened? How far? How? I mean, you mentioned it, so I guess we could ask about it. What happened during that
Oh yeah.
time when you became promiscuous?
I mean, and it's funny because you block a lot of it out so that you can live. Because sometimes you don't block things out, it will like eat you up. And it's not until I start to release and I'm thinking, wow, I did a lot of damage to myself and I didn't have any value on myself. I didn't really think I was worth anything because when you're 12 years old and your father is the first person to start to desire you, or your father is the first person to perform oral sex on you, and then your mother okays it in a sense. Your mother says to you, oh, nobody's ever going to want you. And if anybody ever does want you, she's telling you things like you're ugly and a man is going to have to use their foot to have sex with you. And she's walking and telling everybody in Philadelphia that, she took my husband from me. You're thinking, wow, I must not be worth much. And if I'm not worth much, then anybody can just come have a piece. And then adding on to the fact that you have no paperwork, at the time you have no paperwork, you can't do certain things, you don't have a mother that's helping you. And you think, well, if he got it for free, certainly I can use it to my advantage, and you just start throwing yourself around there. Luckily, even with all of that, I still was conscious of certain things and I still knew about energy exchange, and I realized that there was something wrong and I needed to heal. So I didn't go as ham as I think I should have, as statistics say I should have, but there were definitely some broken nights and some broken days when I let some people just ride along with it and just what they wanted to do, and it happens. And I thought I was alone and I was ashamed for a long time until more people started coming out and saying, oh my God, this affected me too. I don't enjoy sex anymore and this is happening, and I went through it and I didn't have a value on sex. And you don't, when your father is the first person for you, you don't learn romance, you don't learn intimacy, you learn, excuse my language, just F and get it over with, because that's kind of what you had to deal with. So there's no, sex doesn't hold the value that it should. The first time wasn't, oh my God, I really like this boy, I want to do it. The first time was, I have to do this, or I'm going to grow up with the story that my dad did this first. So I think it kind of took the value away from me from what sex should have been for me, and I just didn't care much about it.
Let's talk about, guys, I'm also watching your question in the chat room. And again, this is one of the saddest story that I've heard for the year. This is one of the most touching story that I've heard. After watching your video, I was devastated by you know, how you your emotion, how you really told the story was very sad. You mentioned also that you couldn't walk for 10 years. Was that as a result? Did anything that happened that your father did to you contributed to you not being able to walk for 10 years?
Well, I mean, I'm very big on um herbs and logics and things like that, but my mom told me that she, as we would say back home, obied me. Went and paid the obia man to have certain things happen to me. And at first I believed it because imagine you and your mother arguing, and a couple days later she says to you, "Oh, you think you're cute? Watch." And then literally like 5 days later, your face twists and paralyzed to the side.
So hold
Okay,
on, hold on.
then
Back
two
up,
years
back up,
later
back
she
up, back
says to
up, back
you,
up, back up. Sorry to cut you. You say you think your mother obia you? Like put obia on you?
nothing. She told me. She literally said, when I pay my obia man to fix you, no doctor can fix you back.
Wow.
Like I think it's what she told me like day after day. She didn't even hide it. Like she said it all the time. you know. And, I didn't have any reason not to believe her because stories that my aunts had told me about things that she did, places she went and wrote my father's name on paper bag and all kind. I don't know. Listen, I don't practice those things. I don't know, but I can only tell you what I wasn't there. I was a baby. I can only tell you what eyewitnesses have told me and what she has said out of her mouth to me. So, as I was saying, so she imagine 2 years later now she says to you, when I'm finished with you, when my older man finished with you, you're gonna can't walk and not even doctor can make you walk again. So you grew up in a culture where you hear that these things work, they happen. And a part of me, I guess you could say believe kill, believe cure. I don't know, a couple days later I started walking and I'm falling and literally for 10 years no doctor could fix me. But I read a lot. And one thing I do, I love to take responsibility and I love to say, wait, is there something I can do to make this thing better? And I met a herbalist called Patrick, and he's since become like a prophet to me. It was when I went through him, I started realizing that, oh, okay, I have a part that I too could play. And I started my journey. I'm not where I want to be, but I'm not where I used to be with my
Right.
health. Because there was a time where I couldn't even get up to go to the bathroom. I would just have to put a towel there and just let it all out. Whatever came, that came. And my daughter would have to help me or anybody else that was around me to give me some kind of care. You know what I mean? So it was 10 hard years of, imagine you're walking on a little pebble, could make you fall over on your face. And I've had days when because I had to bounce back and forth back to my mother's house after people begged for me and said she have nowhere to stay. And I remember going up the stairs that time and she would come and be on the phone and say, oh my God, look at the handicap. She can't even make it up the stairs. And I mean, she would really jeer me and laugh after me. And it was rough.
Your
It was really
mother,
rough.
your
But
mother, your
I
mother,
feel
your,
like it's
your
something to
mother,
do.
your mother, your mother.
Oh yeah, my mother. I wish I think I did this to let the world know that somebody as evil as my mom exists. I love her, I forgive her, but she's evil and like I needed everybody to know that she goes to church every Sunday, she puts on her clothes, but she's a really evil person. She really is. And I'm not afraid to say that. And anybody that feels otherwise, tell them to take a walk in my shoe and then we'll talk about it. But, after that, it's like I started coming around, as I said, and I started to bring myself back, take the herbs, and realize that it was positive thinking and right words and taking responsibility for my health. Like I said, I'm not where I used to be, but I'm not peeing and messing up myself anymore. So, goodness and my faith coming back, I can smile again, even a little bit. There are residual scars, but those scars remind me of where I'm coming from. So, you know.
This okay. We also and I'm noticing as well that I don't know if you. I mean, I know you mentioned it in the video as well. One of your eyes, like you have a shy eye. What happened to your eye?
Well, that's where the where I say like my faith was paralyzed after my mom said that to me. But really, my pressure went up to the roof because I was 7 months pregnant and I was in Connecticut. I remember I got wind she was on the phone one day. I've always been a quick child, and I'm always listening somewhere. And I heard her on the phone inviting him up here, but she didn't know. And I always used to go to Connecticut or New York, to just kind of get away. And I was 7 months pregnant, and I heard her inviting him up here. So I beat her to it and went to Connecticut to my cousin's house. And she called me in Connecticut and said, your father wants to see you, and if you don't get back here, don't come back. Just come and get your things and don't come back, because it's you he wants to see. And I thought to myself, my God, what am I going to do? I don't have any paperwork. This baby's soon born. I'm going to need somewhere to live until I figure life out. And she has literally your hand in her life, your life in her hands, because she's the one that's filing for your paperwork. You know what I mean? And she's not doing it out of her heart. It's the lawyer that's begging her and saying, please, she has the baby, just, do it for her. And I'm like, okay, I'll just go back. And I went back on Thanksgiving Day 2014. I'm laying down, stressed out. I have like 3 outfits on, just like when I was 12 years old, because I'm so scared of the man, even though I'm 20 years old now. And next thing I know, I wake up 12 o'clock and my face is paralyzed, like it's twisted to one side, like, just gone. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? And everybody's telling me, drink some tea. And I'm like, no, this isn't tea. And we go to the hospital and I'm finding out that it's Bell's palsy, and it's like a facial stroke. But the only difference is that with a facial, with the Bell's palsy, only one side droops as opposed to the whole thing. But it's like it's a paralysis of the face. And, it was all because she let him come up here. And then again, when I to my daughter, she allowed him to come back up here again. When I was giving birth to my daughter, she allowed him to come back up here again in my delivery room. My cousin, who had been my support throughout the whole pregnancy, she was on the list. And my mom, because I was going into a little distress, and my mom went downstairs on the list, took my cousin off, and secretly put my father on the list. And he came in the room, and when I saw him, I just shut down. Everything in me just kind of shut down.
Let's again. So he came while he was giving birth. He came into the delivery room. Your mother allowed him to come into the delivery room.
Into the delivery room, like vagina open to the sky, baby getting ready to come, only 4 centimeters left, and I look up and there's this man, and she just have him in there. Oh, it's gonna be okay, man. It's gonna be okay. Like it's just one happy Brady bunch, and I'm like, these people are sick, like seriously sick, and I just couldn't do it. My body shut down, and it's like the baby felt that she shouldn't come that way, and she just stopped. I was dilating and everything, and she just stopped. And I was in labor for like 24 hours, just about from like 10 o'clock one night to 11:23 the next night. And they had to put me into an emergency C-section, and in the C-section, I started to go into a seizure, and I almost died. And the last thing I remember before my eyes closed was my mom stroking my face, and that's probably the only time in my entire life I've ever seen her show any kind of emotion that I can say was a real emotion, and and even after I left, when I came out of the hospital, I was so stressed out. Even my C-section couldn't heal, and it opened up back. And it's my father. She sent back to the hospital with me again. But I was there. I didn't have any help. I'm going through it, and I just say, okay, whatever. I have to do it because she's gonna put me out. It's winter. It's snowing. I don't know what I'm gonna do. And she having me in the house boiling porridge for me, and like legit doing her best to make it seem like it's just a happy family.
What is wrong with these people? So was your mother and father in cahoots? What was that, a planned thing? Was that a setup to just mess your whole life up?
Look, I don't know, but I make a joke all the time and say it's almost as if the universe had showed me what I was supposed to do before I got here, and I knew what was going to happen, so I started to turn back because, according to the nurses and everybody that was there to witness my birth, I came Friday, September 13th, and I crowned, and the doctor held my head and was pulling me out, and I was right back in my mom. So I'm like, I don't know, maybe I was destined to do this, and I knew it was going to be heavy, but they're both sick people. I don't know why I'm so lucky to have the biggest blessings on earth, because I call them the biggest blessings, because if they hadn't traumatized me like they had, the person I am with my personality wouldn't have been as bold as I am to speak for so many other people. So, I'm glad for my blessings, because of them I'm going to help so many people. But it almost seemed every day I ask myself, did they meet up together and say, let's have this baby and just destroy her life? But
It seemed.
It is what it is, and
Now, your father being a police officer, we also learned from your video that he shot himself.
yes.
What led up to him shooting himself?
Well, after I had been here, and it's funny because I remember the day what I was doing. I was out at the doctor and I was getting some tests done, and I remember my sister called me and said, "Daddy just died," and I was like, "Okay." That back then, that's when you used to pay for credit. Like you used to pay 10 cents for credit, and I remember I said to her, "Is that what you're calling to waste my credit for because somebody killed themselves?" But I was so happy. But what happened was, um, he was with a new lady, and back home we would call that his common law wife because they lived together. And the young lady found out that my father was touching on her 14-year-old daughter, and she reported it because she wasn't like my mother.
Right.
She decided that she was going to report it and be better. And literally, like the day before, she went to go drop the paperwork off because she had now moved out of the house, but he had given her a car and his car wasn't working. So he said to her, "I need a ride to the tax office to," and these are all his words because he's callous and he told me the whole thing. So, and it's also in the Gleaner back home. Anybody wants to read it, it's in the Gleaner. And he said he told her that he wanted a ride to the tax office, but she had the car because he given it to her. So could he get a ride? And he said that once the little boy, she had a son that was deaf, and he said that the little boy came out of the car, and he turned to her and said, "You're not gonna drop the charges?" And she said, "No, I'm not dropping the charges," because like they started to argue. And he said he got so mad, right? Because I guess I had the gun under his leg, and I don't know, according to him, she was reaching for the gun, but evidence says another story. But according to him, he got so mad, and in his words, he bust a shot in her 2 times. And when he realized what he had done, he shot himself in the neck, not to kill himself, but in order to make it look like a robbery gone wrong. That's what this cold man said to me.
What?
Right?
He's a.
But ugly because he lived, He shot himself through the neck. It went through his face. Is up. The funny thing about it now, he and I face are twisted the same way. And I'm like, wow, really, universe? Are we really gonna do this? But anyway, yeah, he shot her because she decided that she wasn't going to allow that to happen to her child, and she left 5 children orphaned because of his selfishness. 5 children.
Wow. So I guess everyone is asking, and folks, if you just came in, to watch this show, you have to go back as soon as the program is finished and watch the entire thing. I'm not going to summarize the whole program, but this have to be one of the most, this is like a roller coaster story. Your life is like a movie as you explain it. Your father, who had molested you for all these years, who is a police officer, ended up shooting someone else, and to cover up for the crime, he allegedly shot himself in the neck, not to kill himself, but to look like it's some kind of robbery gone wrong. And he ended up paralyzed in his face. Where is your father now?
Well, the last time I talked to him, because he came out of prison and he was bragging and saying, he's out now and that his sisters got him a brand new place in a scheme that had been just recently built up, and it's over in Spanish Town. I think the Spanish Town, Portmore area. And he was bragging to me how he came out and had a fridge. And I remember the conversation because the day I was hungry. It's funny, I remember the conversation because I was hungry today and I didn't have anything because of what this man did to me. And he called me and said to me, "I'm out now and I have a fridge full of groceries and a car to drive." And I thought to myself, my God, you mean to tell me that I'm going through this because of this man and this man can brag to me? But I was going through Stockholm, but at the time I was coming out of the Stockholm, and I remember texting him and saying, because when I was going through the Stockholm and I was in Jamaica, his sister gave me the parole letter to take to the prison. And like I said, I was going through it so much, I literally thought this was the only way I could have anybody because they all abandoned me because of this man. And, I remember saying to him, you're out of prison now, but if you don't get rehab, if you don't really get help, I said, I fear for young ladies across the island because the sting of prison now. You're not going to want to go back. So now you're going to kill them. And that's what I fear. And he looked at me and said, oh, no, man. And I started confronting him and saying to him in the message, what you did to me really hurt me. And it destroyed a part of me. And I don't know if I'll ever get that back, but I know I'm going to survive this. And then I'm going to be better than what you did to me. And he literally answered and said, I know what I did to you was wrong, man. And I said to him, don't call me man. We're not friends and I'm not that little girl anymore. And he said to me, I know what I did was wrong, but if your mom had stayed in the house, I wouldn't have touched you. If your mom had acted like a mom and stayed with me in the house, I wouldn't have had to look to you. So I said to him, but you do it to all my friends that were my age. All my friends that followed me home from school, which were very few, said to me, I'm not coming back home with you because I'm afraid of your dad. And I said, you did it to all my friends. You did it to all my cousins. You held on you were going to push yourself on my pregnant 14-year-old cousin. And I said, you have a problem. And he still said, but if your mom was in the house, statistics shows that if two parents are in the house, these things don't happen. And I said, so if my mom had died in childbirth, would you have had sex with me the first day you took me home? And he just kept making excuses and saying, I know what you're saying makes sense, but it doesn't change the fact that if your mom was in the house, I wouldn't have touched you. And that's when I realized that's what took me out of the Stockholm. When I really started realizing, shoot, this man doesn't care and he's evil and he's going to hurt other people if I don't stop pretending like everybody else that everything is okay.
He's a devil. Someone said that your dad and your mom was riding the devil's coattail. Some serious horror that you went through. I'm sure that the depression that you went through as well was real. How do you, when you analyze and you get a chance to talk to people, young women and men, what do you say to them? Because is an advocate. Have an opportunity to change people's lives around the world. What do you say first to young women, to men, and as well as parents that are watching? What do you have to say to them?
The first thing I say to anyone that's in this situation right now or know someone that's going through this, the first thing I say to you is they really are cowards. And it took me a long time to realize that that's their superpower. Their superpower is that they make themselves appear more powerful than they are. Imagine a dog and you took out all his teeth, but he had to bark in a way that covered the fact that he didn't have teeth so he could keep you fearful. That's who they are. And they pry on your weakness. They pry on your needs. And they love to make people dependent upon them. So I say to you, stop being afraid of them as safely as you can. Because I understand also that some situations are set up that you can't, that you simply can't. But if and when you can, speak out because they really are weaker than you think. I promise you they are. And they usually tend to band together. So find somebody that you think you can trust and don't stop talking until somebody listens. You hear me? And to the parents out there, I say this. Listen to your children. My daughter, and also educate your children. Stop being afraid to talk to these babies because your fear is going to cause a lot of pain. We think our children can't handle it, but can they? Which do you think they can handle better? A conversation to prepare them or a conversation trying to repair them? One to prepare them or one to repair them? I think I'd prefer to have the one that prepares them to avoid it so we don't have to repair. My daughter, I've been teaching her about this since she was 3 years old. And everybody used to say to me, oh God, Monique, man, you can't stop talking about that. Don't tell the baby that's so young. And I said, listen, if somebody had told me when I was her age, my father wouldn't reach as far as he is. And believe it or not, I went to Jamaica and, I'm introducing my daughter to my beautiful country. And this little girl goes down there and she's like 8 or 9 years old. And a young man that was 15 saw it fit to stick his tongue down my daughter's throat. No, thank goodness I had educated my daughter because she stopped him then and there. And it was because she was educated, she could show her power and say, no, you don't get to do that to me. I don't like that. But because he saw the power in her, he didn't do it again because he was afraid, because he knew that that was a child that was not going to take his crap. You get what I'm saying? So educate your children, listen to them. If you know many things that I learned from my daughter, just listening to her, they have a whole life that's going on, and we don't listen to our children enough. And mothers, some of you, majority of you, as I'm finding out, because as the message is coming, I'm realizing when these children come to you, stop telling them that they're lying because you don't know how you're going to eat. Grab your child and go. Life will provide some way, somehow. I promise you, it's worse than your child growing up with the pain of you never standing up for them. And another thing before we go that I'm big on, that I talk about a lot and I want to spread awareness on, is victim shaming. And I know so many people that are guilty of this, but I'm not here to throw stones. I'm here to correct the pain from those stones. Stop telling survivors that it was their fault. When a survivor comes to you and confides in you, don't ask them what were they doing there. Don't ask them what were they wearing. Don't ask them if they were drunk, because alcohol don't rape, and short clothes don't rape, and nakedness don't rape. The only thing that rape is rapists. So I'm begging you on behalf of every survivor, when we get the courage enough to talk, do not put us back in another bondage, because it's like you're raping us all over again to ask us what part we played in getting raped.
Yes. And you did a book, and a lot of people are there and they would like to get some more information on your book. If you could just give them where they could buy the book, how they could get in touch with you, and how they could get some of your strength by contacting you. First of all, the book, where could folks obtain your book?
Okay, so the book is available on Amazon.com. It's available in ebook for $4.99, and it's available in paperback for $9.99. A lot of people ask me why I kept the price so low. I kept it low because when you read the book, you'll realize I even said it in there. When I was young, I knew I was going to tell my story. I didn't know how, but I made a promise to the universe, and I said, when I write this book, I'm not going to do it for the money or the reward or, you know, of course, we all have a life to live, but for me, it just simply isn't about that. I'm going to keep it cheap because I know what it feels like to be that person when I was young. And there was a book that probably could have helped me, but it was $20 and I just couldn't afford it. And I realized that a lot of people that have been broken, are really broken, and they're in some broken places. And I wanted everyone to be able to afford it. They can also find, I also send signed copies for now, while I can. So if anybody wants to take any advantage of that, it's a signed copy, and I sell it through PayPal. And the PayPal information is PayPal.me/Monique Doran, MoniqueDoran, and I'll put a link to it on my page.
Yeah.
So if you want that option, it's $15, and that includes shipping, and it covers everything, and it's actually a little bit cheaper than Amazon. So if you want to go that route, just because Amazon adds so much to the shipping.
Yeah. Are we also going to post the information?
I'm sorry. The name of the book is Daddy Don't Touch Me There: One Woman's Story of Survival.
Yes, Daddy Don't Touch Me There: One Woman's Story of Survival. We're going to be pasting. That's the book right there. That's the book right there. Yes. And we're also going to be pasting the information in the Ridealong support group. Monique, you are the best. I'd like to thank you for your strength. Thanks for taking the call, Monique. Thanks for allowing us to get a chance to understand and to be inspired by your story. Because although you went through so much, you are strong today, and you will continue to be strong. You have a very strong daughter, and you are able to, she is able to be very successful because of your strength. And the thousands of people who watching the show right now, and the thousands of more who will watch this program, would would breed or get a lot of inspiration from your strength and courage. And for that, we thank you. You are now a part of the Ridealong family, as we say. We're going to keep in touch with you and find out how life progress going forward. And as we always say on Ridealong, we encourage everyone to support, and share and love. Share the love. Share the thing. Thank you, Monique. Any last word you want to leave with?
Yeah, you know, it's just as you know, if anybody has listened to my video, I've literally asked be love in motion, and I just want to infect everybody with that. Just be love in motion. For so long, we've been so hurt and filled with pain that we don't love on people, and we don't think it's okay to just ask somebody, "Are you okay?" And I can literally tell you that an "Are you okay?" has saved my life. So it doesn't cost anything to say to somebody, "Are you okay?" and just smile with somebody. It can go a long way. You had asked me how to contact me. They could if persons want to send me an email, they can send an email to Monique@MoniqueDoran.com. They can check out the website MoniqueDoran.com, and you know, just inbox me. I may not get to you tomorrow, but I give my word. I'm going through it diligently. Some folks will tell you I have gotten back, and those who I haven't, I'm working on it. I didn't expect it to be so many people, but I'm here for you, survivors. I'm here for you because I know what you feel like, and I'm going to use this big mouth of mine to make sure that we get justice, and even if we don't see it in our lifetime, to know that we started the spark of the mind that will.
Thank you so much, Monique. Again, we appreciate you, and we thank you for sharing your story, and we'll catch up and we'll keep in touch.
Thank you for having me. I truly appreciate. Keep doing the good work, and you know, shows like this really matter. I appreciate you, and just keep on keeping on.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah. Guys, you heard it there from Monique. A story that would really